I was just in a place of depression almost, because I was so active in my work life, firing on all cylinders, that I was like, why, when I'm at home, can't I apply myself the way I am in my restaurant? Why can't I clean my whole apartment and like mow the lawn and do a whole thing the way I could take care of this restaurant? What is the gap there? I was yes chef all the time, no matter what. Even if when I sucked, I mean, I didn't just become a chef and know what I was doing. I was a bad cook for a long time, but I got good, and I was a good leader. Some of the cooks that worked for me were better cooks than I was, but I was a better leader. And I was just learning that over time. I was trying just so hard to be the best leader, the best chef in the world, the most innovative, the most creative. And I was trying to check off way too many boxes when, not to be cheesy, but like who I was unique enough.
Today on the LA Food Podcast, I'm your host, Lucas Servodio, and yes, I did crumble like a delicate cannoli shell and start a Threads account. The only cannoli I want to talk about today, however, are the ones being served by Carmi Berzato. That's right, dear listener, today's episode is all about the bear. We're joined by culinary producer Courtney Storer to break down the behind the scenes of Season 2, which is now airing on Hulu. Courtney is a Los Angeles-based chef whose many credentials include running the kitchen at the iconic Jon Vinny's. Courtney is, in a nutshell, one of the main reasons why the bear feels like such an accurate representation of restaurant life and why it's resonated with so many inside and out of the industry. We talk about her experience working with actors to ensure they're moving around the kitchen believably, how important it was to her to do right by Chicago's legendary culinary scene, and why so many chefs have no problem taking care of others but have a really tough time taking care of themselves. Personally, I walked away from the conversation inspired and, frankly, awestruck by the love, passion, and care Courtney and the rest of the team pour into the bear. And I'm already counting down the days to Season 3. In Part 2, we're joined by the LA Food Pod's favorite jagoff, Father Saul. We give our overall takes on Season 2 and discuss things like who gave the best performance, which episode made us cry the most, and is Rick Bayless an idiot for saying the show set the industry back 20 years? Spoiler alert, the answer is yes. In Part 3, we let our creative juices flow and pitch our best ideas for how we think the bear should open Season 3, Episode 1. Did I pretty much write a whole episode out of excitement? You bet your ass I did. Dear listener, if you're afraid of spoilers, I recommend listening to Part 1 with Courtney and saving the rest of the pod for after you've seen the show. But also, The Bear's been out for several weeks and it's the best show on TV, so if you haven't seen it, that's kind of on you, lizard. Without further ado, let's chow down. I know I always say how excited I am to welcome our guests to the podcast, but today I'm truly like a kid at the Feast of the Seven Fishes. Our guest today is the culinary producer of The Bear, which is not just the best food show on TV right now, it's the best show, period. She's also the former CDC and culinary director of Jon Vinny's and a veteran of other acclaimed kitchens ranging from Animal on Fairfax to Verjus in Paris. It's Courtney Storer, ladies and gentlemen. Courtney, how are you doing today?
And the crowd goes wild.
Yeah, in true Chicago fashion, I wanted to give you an MJ welcome.
Okay, so we got Luca Servodio. You must be Italian.
I am.
You got the Italian name.
Yeah, I've had my fair share of the Feast of the Seven Fishes. Although, what's so funny is I understand it's mostly an Italian-American thing, and I grew up in Italy, so my family always roasts me now for having the Feast of the Seven Fishes, but I love the tradition.
Oh my God, that's adorable, and I bet that makes a lot of sense, because every time I go to Italy, I'm like expecting these things, these traditions, and they're just not there. And Seven Fishes is one of them that people are like, "What are you guys doing?"
We have fishes. Don't get me wrong. Every Christmas Eve is fishes. It's just not 7 of them,
Exactly. This is the Seven Fishes question is not just unique to the bear. This is like something that a lot of people have wondered, I'm sure, over the years.
Yeah, I absolutely loved it when Pete brings the tuna casserole and they're like, "We already have 7 fish. What are you doing? Are you insane?" It's so good.
Yeah, it's real.
What are your LA stomping grounds, Courtney?
Oh, in terms of food, well, so I'm an East Sider now. After living, around Fairfax for forever, where Jon Vinny's is, and you can catch me a lot of time in Altadena. I have a little spot over here called Yang's Kitchen that I absolutely love. On Figueroa, I'm always at Go Get 'Em Tiger. Are you talking food, right?
I'm talking food, but where you like to hang out. I'm also an East Sider, so
Yeah, my friend Ari just opened his restaurant on York and what is that? What is that area? Eagle Rock?
oh, is that
Yeah, so
oh, the Eagle
Queen
Rock Highland
Street.
Park. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's awesome. We live in that neck of the woods, so we're extremely excited for that one.
Oh my gosh, me too, me too. I mean, anything he does is delicious, so I'm excited about that. But I've really been exploring the area over here because it's been kind of refreshing living east. I've never lived this way before, so it's nice.
Welcome to the best part of Los Angeles, if I may say so myself.
Ooh.
We're glad to have you. Yeah, yeah. We throw a lot of shade at the West Side on this podcast. It's loving. Don't get me wrong. Um,
Totally.
let's break down the title culinary producer because I don't think
Mhm.
it's a lot of things that our listeners may have heard before. So, on a
Sure.
show like The Bear, what falls under that title?
So it's more expansive than, just food styling. It works a lot with all the departments of the show, from production, writing, um, to set decoration and design, concept design, menu design, prop placement, prop choices, and also working directly with the actors. So that's something that's a little bit unique to culinary producer, is that there's a good amount of choreography, there's a good amount of movement in the show, and not only do the actors have to go in and memorize their lines and all the feeling and what they're trying to convey, but then we're also having them cook. So being a support to them is really important. It's a big part of my job. And it's also kind of being a liaison to all the locations that we work with in Chicago, communication amongst those chefs on what our needs might be. I mean, there is no way that you can make a show like The Bear without a big community and team behind you. So I kind of like to be kind of an extension of The Bear in the community in Chicago, to kind of say, hey, like, I know the best person who makes the most delicious pierogies. Like, we got to go through and try those for when Sydney tries all the food in Chicago, or like, this is the best pasta maker here. This is the best dumpling spot that opened. This is where a chef goes on his or her day off, or their day off. So it's a lot of things, and it's kind of engaging with the team and letting them know if things feel accurate, if movements are right. I mean, Maddie and I, who is not only an exec producer on the show, but also acting in the show. I mean, we work very closely to be like, is this the direction? Like, can I shape this way? Or can we talk to the writers about this? I do feel like I always have an ally at all times to kind of lean on. It's a job that involves a lot of communication and organization, and just kind of making it all seamlessly kind of come together using all the departments.
Yeah, this sounds like there's probably never a dull day.
No, definitely not. It does feel like a restaurant in that way.
Yeah.
And, utilizing a team and helping everybody understand this world, because everyone has incredibly amazing ideas. These individuals that make this show are incredible at what they do. So it's just about, hey, this creativity that you have, what if we took it a little bit more here? What if you looked at this product, or this kind of design, or this shape of the kitchen, kind of just pulling it all together. I feel like I'm really shaping things daily. And looking at anything from like the calendar on
Hmm.
camera that you see, like, what would it look like when you're opening a restaurant, what kind of things are getting done, and all those little details to the big ones.
And I think it's those little details that make everything feel so real. Like on that calendar you just mentioned, there's like, yeah, there's the dates. It says what's it called? Friends and family, right? It says
Yeah.
that. But then there's also little things that say like, oh fuck or shit, or like,
Yes,
like all those little things that are like making up the universe in which they are and make it feel real, right?
definitely. And having a sense of humor at that,
Yeah.
right? So like, kitchens are difficult, but they're also so wonderful. And you have this team of people that does become like a family, and you razz each other a lot of times, and you try to make each other laugh. And when it's tough, like sometimes there's comedic relief. So we really wanted to develop that those relationships have been long-standing and visible in ways that are present, and not just the dialogue you see between these people.
Yeah, that makes sense. So your brother Christopher Storer wrote and created the show. When did he first bring you this idea, and what did you say?
Well, I think Chris is very, very talented. Anytime he tells me what he's written, I'm blown away because I mean, we've only just seen just the beginning of the things that he can do, which is really exciting for him because I think he's been very patient and driven and devoted to his love for TV and movie making. So it's kind of cool to see that The Bear was his first like solo, big project with his name on it, and obviously the team. But he had been working on The Bear. It wasn't called The Bear many, many years ago because, the beef is Mr. Beef is a real restaurant in Chicago. And a big shout out to the Zucchero family that we grew up with. And I worked for them for a long time. And I knew that it inspired him to write something that was shaped around a Mortal Kombat tournament that was going to be at the restaurant, and the restaurant was having all these difficulties. But I think it really took shape as he did a lot more work with like Thomas Keller. Like he was shooting videos for a lot of these amazing chefs and spending a lot of time with chefs. I'm a chef. His closest friends are chefs. So he knows this world peripherally and very intimately, obviously through my experience, because I lived with him for a long time when I was coming up. So he could see a different perspective into this world of the hardship too, like the sadness. And so I think for a while he was kind of like finding these characters and bringing them to life. And in the pandemic, it's really when it picked up steam.
Mm-hmm. And when you
Yeah.
first heard the project and were like integrated into it all coming together, were there things that you picked up on as, hey, that wouldn't really work that way, or this was inaccurate, or this might need to be a little different? What were some of those?
Yeah, well, I think season one, when you see that episode 7 with all the tickets and the chaos, um, it's it's even like Sydney and Carmi's back and forth of like, I've got it, I've got it, I've got it, and like the flex that Carmi takes, like being able to explain that. Like I spent a lot of time with Io before we filmed just to talk about what it was like coming up as a chef and being like, I know that I can implement amazing strategies or help this kitchen culture, but I didn't always know all of it. Like I always was like, I got this, I can do all of it. And that kind of conflict that you see between Carmi and Sydney is a very relatable thing when Carmi actually is the one who's probably more likely to take the reins. And he's like, there's just a limitation where he's like, you're coming up and I'm trying to let you lead this kitchen, but you're not there yet. And there's some conflict always that you feel as a chef as you're trying to learn your voice, where at the end of the day, sometimes you're like, I got it, but you might not. So like talking about those dynamics, I think are really important in how you respond to them.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that you can't always just walk away and be like, I'm out of here. Like sometimes you have those moments and then you have to work 8 hours more together and then show up the next day. So I talked to them a lot about what that's like and what it's like to lead people when you're new, like Sydney
Mm-hmm.
coming in and Tina, who's played by the incredible Liza Colonzayas, that kind of icing her out, kind of being like, I'm not going to listen to you. You're not my chef. Like, don't come in here telling me what to do. Like, I've been through all of those things. So there were moments where I was just like, this would feel really shitty, or pardon my French, but it would feel
No,
really
you're allowed to
bad.
say whatever you want on here.
But it would feel really bad. And how would you react as a chef, like when you're having a bad day? So at a lot of moments while we were filming, Maddie or myself, we could really step in and say, hold on, like this wouldn't happen, or this would be labeled that way, but it's bigger. It's like, move the pan this way, hold the towel like that, put your towel here. It was like we were watching Drink from a Deli, get that coffee cup out of here. Like we were like, trying to act the way we would, and it worked and it paid off. But there's still so much about this world that's hard to totally convey.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's such a multifaceted world, and not to mention all of the experiences that lead someone to go to the kitchen. And in preparing for this podcast, I listened to some of your backstory, and I picked up on little things that maybe were from your personal story, like the UPS mention and whatnot. I believe you worked there before you took the plunge into the crazy culinary world too. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. Like I always tell everybody about my journey into food is like every job has mattered and a lot of them weren't in food. So, at UPS, it got me closer to food because I had a clientele at a certain point. I went into sales and I was working with all these like distributors and restaurateurs and um, even when I was trying to escape, or not even escape from restaurants, but I was like, I can't make enough money to support myself. I found my way back into them. And I'm so grateful for my time at UPS because it made me really have a good insight into, logistics,
Hmm.
operations, systemization. Like if you can get people to work in a 24-hour operation, you can get somebody to work in a kitchen, right? It's just like how you lead them. Positive reinforcement, learning and development, all of these things were ways that I approached all of those lessons in kitchens because I just brought them into those places, being a good leader, being able to try to motivate my team and have an environment that felt literally like a sports team helped
Hmm.
me kind of feeling like a coach. So
That
yeah,
makes
it
sense.
a lot of it made it to some of the storylines in the bear.
Yeah, it's really cool to see. And speaking of IO and all of the work that went into preparing these actors to come across as legit chefs, right? Are there any stories that really jump out to you in terms of like when they were doing the work, when they were putting in the hours, chopping onions or whatever?
Yeah, I mean, Lionel and I spent a lot of time this season for season two to prepare on the skill set he was going to need for not only the Copenhagen episode, right? You see him do some canneling, you see him plating dishes, you see him doing some dough work. We we had to really put in some time to practice those techniques, to work on his posture, to work on how he carried things, his pace, his urgency in the kitchen, and I also, prior to shooting, talked to the actors a lot about what they would make. I wanted to
Mm.
know with Lionel who he thought Marcus would be and what Marcus might make. And he had incredible insight into Marcus's world, and it helped me a lot create, what we ended on with the cannoli and the Copenhagen sundae and the zeppole donut with the cherry, like the fermented cherry and cherry powder, and then the honey bun, which was something that he thought of, is a dessert that he exchanged with his mom. And so we made a finessed one for people to take home at the end of the night. Um, and Lionel did the work. Like we would be rolling out dough, we'd be shaping donuts, frying them. Like he learned a lot. We made a ton of focaccia, a ton of different kinds of doughs. Another thing that stood out was Io making the omelet for the first time at my house. I have a
Such a
catering
cool scene.
kitchen. Yeah, and she just did it. She did it the first time, and I was like, "Man, you're making me look bad." But she is a natural talent, and I would say about Io is that she's incredibly courageous. Like she just goes for it, and I'm like, "Man, that's pretty sick."
That omelet was one of the more like mouth-watering moments for me of the entire
Yes,
season with like the
yes, it's a good one,
crumbling of
huh?
oh my god, with the crumbling of
Mhm.
the chips on top, that one really
Mhm.
hit.
Yeah, it hits for sure.
Yeah. And something you just mentioned about ideating the dishes, one of the really cool parts of season 2 was seeing the menu of the concept, The Bear, come together and seeing all of Carmi's incredible drawings and whatnot. Is that something that you did as well? Like draw out dishes like that?
Well, yeah, we had an illustrator, an incredible illustrator in Chicago actually make those. But I pulled from private images that I had collected in my travels or dishes that I had made to have them kind of illustrate. We took a lot of inspiration from, what we thought Carmi would be dreaming up, like the perfect duck prosciutto, like cut really nice and simply laid on a plate. Like we wanted to show the Italian beef in a way that was elevated and also incorporated some of the things that were happening in the storyline, like the seven fishes. the grapes and the smoked bone marrow that we talked about with Io and Carmi when they're just dreaming things up. You see the like saffron in that dish when it's when they're plating and it looks crazy. So there's a lot of storytelling that I try to take into consideration. And I'm a big visual person, so I make a lot of mood boards. I have to do something. I have
Hmm.
to show people those because they're really beautiful. But throughout the show, we had a lot of mood boards where it was like, this is everything that we're doing season two and where we want to go to like connect it all. So that's a big
Yeah.
part of it is making it make sense for the bare menu. So it feels collaborative and like it connects to what they've been working on.
Oh, and I think you guys nail that on the head. And mood boards are kind of everywhere. You see like
Yeah.
their mood boards when they're dreaming up what the
Yeah.
restaurant should look like
Mhm.
too, right? It's kind of like a recurring theme. Speaking of mood board though, one of the like moods that you guys really evoke really well in season 2 was Chicago. Like it told such a story of the Chicago food scene. Like we got to see so many different restaurants and everything. You are obviously you're from Chicago. What was it like to be able to show off Chicago's food scene? What did you hope to accomplish by doing that?
I mean, it was incredible because obviously Chicago is my hometown and I adore it. It also is where I learned the most about hospitality, you know, coming up and working for so many family-owned Italian restaurants. You know, I worked for Giuseppe Tintori, who had a restaurant called GT Fish and Oyster, and has gone on to open a lot of different restaurants. But I have so much respect for hospitality because it's like where I first fell in love with it. It was like the first insight I had into, you know, what a major D did or a host or like someone welcoming you into the space. And hospitality is just as much felt in the internal customers, the people that work with each other, as it is the external, the people coming in, eating, you know. I loved going into my favorite Italian deli because they remembered my name and they like always remembered the sandwich that I want or the pastry. And that kind of tangible feeling is something that served me really well as a chef and as a professional. I always tried to be hospitable, and I learned that in Chicago. And I think Chicago is an incredibly beautiful city with wonderful people, and has some really special things about it. So there's no accident there about Chris deciding to work with the amazing team and really look at all the incredible architecture, you know, the river turning green around St. Patrick's Day, or the traditions and the community that comes together for these holidays. It's pretty special, and it's something I miss sometimes in LA. And so it was really great to go back and take a walk on the lakeshore or go get a hot dog. Like I really love all those things still.
Yeah. I mean, what a cool way to be able to like share them with the world.
Mhm. Yeah.
It kind of does raise the question, like, what would a show like this in LA look like? It would look really
Mhm.
different, right?
Yeah, but you have some of the most enriched communities and food here. I haven't eaten I some of the things I've had in LA I never knew existed until I came out here. And I think there's a very diverse food community in Los Angeles that is incredible. So I think it would be an introduction to a lot of different kinds of cuisine and a lot of different pockets of Los Angeles being such an expansive big city. There's endless amounts of good food here. I continue to discover it. So I think it has all the potential to to be a good food show. Just don't know what the plot would be. Maybe the Bear Crew comes out to LA.
Yeah, they open a second location on
Oh
Fairfax, right?
yeah.
Yeah,
There you
there you go.
go. There you go.
Well, I think a lot of people's favorite episode of this season, of season 2, was Fishes, episode 6. It was the epic episode with all the amazing guest stars. First, I got to ask, what was it like to be on set that day with all, with Bob Odenkirk and Jamie Lee Curtis?
Well, it's super surreal. I was blown away at how excited everyone was to be there, the excitement that you felt, and then also the reality that this was a pretty intense, serious episode. So there was kind of like this excitement matched with this intense emotional excitement, but fear a
Yeah.
little bit. Um, Working with Jamie was amazing. Like, she is just a force. And I just was like, whoa, like seeing her. But I also was so busy creating the chaos in that kitchen. We had And I had such an amazing culinary team that day, but it was like I needed bronzinos, potatoes, rapini. I was doing all these meatballs and red sauce and it was just like food everywhere. And Jamie was such a good sport. And I was like, we're not doing ribs, we're doing this. And so like the script was changing because I was changing the menu and Chris and I were putting some fun stuff in the mix. So it was chaotic, but I remembered with season one, just how much the smell of the food adds to the environment. And I wanted things to smell really good. So I made everything from scratch and we brought in some really beautiful food and some pastries to complement all of that. So it was a fully stocked kitchen and the crew was taking nibbles all day. That's the thing on the bear, everybody's nibbling. So everything
Yeah.
needs to taste really good. Otherwise, I'll hear about it. So it's a great exercise in catering because I'm constantly like doing these large volume format foods. But as intense as Seven Fishes was, it really felt like art therapy to be able to just make a mess and go into an experience that has some complicated memories for me and make it a joyful thing was kind of cool.
Yeah, I was going to ask, did you celebrate the, I'm assuming you did because we talked about it at the start, but was Seven Fishes a part of your upbringing too?
Version. I would say when I would when we would have those big seafood dinners, it was kind of Seven Fishes-esque, but we never called it that. Similar to your family, it would just be like for Christmas, you would have like a lobster, crab, or something really extravagant. And then obviously over the years, like my family had a huge crazy blow up. And so that stopped happening. So, I started cooking to kind of bring those memories back a little bit. So yeah, we stopped having the Seven Fishes for that reason because it kind of went crazy and then never really went back since. So it was tough to have that kind of memory, a
Yeah.
reminder.
It was art therapy, to use your words. I
Yeah.
mean, like, how did the chaos in the family and whatnot, and in the memories even, influence how
Mhm.
you like even set up the chaos in the kitchen, which I think was one of the most, like, a lot has to be said about how awesome the restaurant scenes are in The Bear, but the kitchen scene in Fishes was so special because it's something
Mhm.
that everybody can relate to,
Mhm.
not just if you're in the restaurant industry. Like, we've all been in like a
Chaos.
crazy, yeah, a crazy like toxic relative's kitchen or something, right? Like,
Yeah.
we've all felt that. We've all felt like we're intruding in someone's space, like all that. Like, what was that like to create that specific kitchen?
Well, I knew I was going to bring excess to it and make it feel really like really crowded. And then the action of Jamie putting her hand in the butter onto the bread, just like cutting the steps, like instead of making it come from like a place that's controlled and thoughtful, it's coming from a place of forced chaos, passion, energy, frustration, underlying issues. It's like doing it for the wrong reasons,
Mhm.
making all this just to prove a point versus doing it with intention, which I think is the biggest thing that Carmi's learning and Noma, and he's in all these kitchens. He's learning about intention, taking care of his space, doing something really respectfully with honor and care. And then you go into his home environment where it's actually the opposite. The garbage isn't taken out, the sink isn't clean. It's just like stacked, almost like a ticking time bomb, right? And Chris kept saying that, like, get the timers going off, get the timers going off. So we were constantly doing that because the timer, like that bell ringing in your ear,
Mhm.
is kind of reminiscent of what these people are feeling inside, is that
Yeah.
volatility, that like volcano waiting to erupt. And, I think I can speak to only my own experience, but in an Italian family, and this was hard is that it's like, what's going on under the surface? You good? Because like deep down, you don't look good, or you're not acting good, or you don't seem okay. And then the shame and guilt of like pushing someone to then erupt is like, well, we tried to keep everything okay until it's not, but it was never okay.
Yeah.
And so showing that in food is hard, but her kind of putting things in out of the oven, pulling out, the mess. Carmi's just like overwhelmed by it and just trying to like do his best to diffuse. He's like the one trying to diffuse, and
Yeah.
Sugar as well.
And that was so well done, because
Mhm.
I'm sure different cultures can relate to this too, but I think at least in my Italian family, it's not a culture of talking about stuff. It's a culture of
Mm-mm.
diffusing. It's a culture of not setting people off. It's a culture of and that
Mhm.
was such that like fine line was painted so well in that episode. And we all knew it was going to explode at some point, right? But
Yeah. Yeah.
I was hoping the entire time, don't explode, don't explode, don't explode. And
Same.
so well done.
And you know it well, and that's so amazing that you were able to connect, and I hope that seeing that episode, you know, people feel maybe less alone, or that it happens more than you think on holidays, but also birthdays, any sort of celebration of joy, or even a Tuesday
Friday.
night,
Yeah.
right? Exactly. And that people aren't alone in those experiences, and not alone in how they affect you later, right? It's like so many of these terrible memories I have in my brain happened 20 years ago and they're still there, right? So it's like
Yeah.
working through all that is a complicated process and affects our all of our worlds, our work world, our personal world. And so giving that backstory, I commend the writers and Chris for and Joanna for like doing that.
Yeah. And this kind of leads me to the next point, which is really one of the themes that is so explored throughout the show, which is this balance between as chefs wanting to take care of other people, but never really being able to stop to take care of yourself. And, you worked in some of the craziest kitchens in all of Los Angeles. I've got to
Mhm.
imagine that you know what that's like. So
Yeah.
how important was
Yeah.
it to you to really nail that message in this show?
Well, I think it's hard to totally nail it because it's so complicated, right? So it's like there's so many layers in how people experience restaurant world. It's not the same for everyone. It's a big universe to tap into because everyone's different experience is central to themselves, right? So I can speak to mine being that like when I was always arrows out, I was just really depleting my care for myself. My experience outside of the restaurant was very different because I'd be so tired, and
Mhm.
no amount of sleep would solve that. And it was like an adrenal tired, like I had nothing else left. And every car ride, I'd fall asleep. Every movie, I'd fall asleep. It's like I was just in a place of, depression almost because I was so active in my work life, firing on all cylinders, that I was like, why, when I'm at home, can't I apply myself the way I am in my restaurant? Why can't I clean my whole apartment and like mow the lawn and do a whole thing the way I could take care of this restaurant? What is the gap there?
Mhm.
And filling up your fuel inside is bigger than work. It's like my issues didn't stem from just work, they stemmed from my childhood. And like, you know, I carried them a lot, that I was able to be environments where I had a really thick skin. And so I was yes chef all the time, no matter what. If even if when I sucked, I mean, I didn't just become a chef and know what I was doing. I was a bad cook for a long time, but I got good, you know, and I was a good leader. Some of the cooks that worked for me were better cooks than I was, but I was a better leader. And I was just learning that over time. I was trying just so hard to be the best leader, the best chef in the world, the most innovative, the most creative. And I was trying to check off way too many boxes when, not to be cheesy, but like who I was unique enough,
Mhm.
and that the cooking technique and stuff comes with time. You can't expect that you're going to do it all. And to bring myself into it is a gift, but I didn't really recognize that until I took a step back from restaurants. I really had to figure out what I wanted to do, who I am as a chef, what my perspective was. And that meant I had to really step away from working at this velocity where I had no time to even think about it. Because when you don't have space and time to take a breath, your head is clogged with things that don't matter, you know. I was
Yeah.
always like I was always like, I have to be the best. I need to post on Instagram. I gotta do this. I gotta get people thinking about what I'm doing. And sometimes that's forcing it.
It hits so
Yeah.
hard. That message
Yeah.
hits so hard. The one of
Mhm.
like wanting to always be this best version of yourself with these external eyes on you instead of, and always thinking that what you have to offer isn't good enough. It's only good as how you measure up against someone else. And
Yes.
you talk about it in the show too, but I mean, it's such an important lesson. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, I think it's really true because there's only one you. There's only one you doing this kind of podcast, and your questions are unique to all the different things I've been doing. And I think that's really something to remember is that you just have to be enough for you. That's all that matters. If you start there, um, you can apply yourself a little bit more authentically. And it took me many, many years. I can't tell you how much sleep I lost over every bad family meal I made for the crew, after every bad steak I seared, after every time I didn't know what a certain cut of a vegetable was and felt really stupid. You know how Lionel's over there with his phone on in the Copenhagen episode? I've done
Yeah.
that so many times where I'm like, yes, chef. And I walk to the bathroom and I'm like, fuck. You know? And like being human is part of being okay with asking questions. And I always try to tell anyone when they're looking for advice in cooking that ask as many questions and the right chefs will answer them. The ones that don't, ask somebody else. If someone tells you they don't have time for you, ask somebody else or read about it or Google it. But always try to answer the questions that pop up because you'll have a lot of them and you don't always have the right first person to answer.
Courtney, I could talk to you about this stuff all day long. You are a
Oh,
true source of wisdom and a
yeah.
delight to speak to. Last question.
Yes.
What's next for Courtney besides the bear?
Yeah, so I have a business called Coco's to Go Go. My nickname is Coco. I can thank my brother Chris for that one. And Coco's to Go Go is something I started in the pandemic. I'm launching an Italian ice that I'm going to be doing pop ups in LA, so you have to come.
Oh, hell yeah.
Um, yeah, and we're going to do some fun activities. I have some stuff coming up where I'm taking over a restaurant in Ojai at the end of August, and
Wait, which one?
some Rory's Place.
Oh my God. We just went to Ojai and ate all
Did you
over
go
the
to
place.
Rory's?
We didn't eat there, but we
No,
went by. We got to go next time. But I
you
had
have to
some of the,
go.
oh, what an incredible culinary scene up there.
Yeah, it's totally sweet and cool, and I'm so proud of my friends for doing such a beautiful restaurant out there. And so we'd like to do some fun collaborations, and I'm trying to do a little bit of traveling with Coco's to Go Go and do some pop up restaurants, which I love doing, and just having fun with food and exploring, that as I grow my business.
That is so exciting. Well,
Baby steps.
baby steps, one day at a time,
Yeah.
to borrow a motto. Where can people find you if they're looking for you?
I have an Instagram. It's at Courtney __ Storer. And then I'll have a website here in about a week and a half. So I will send everybody over there once it's ready. I'll have recipes and videos and some fun stuff.
I can't wait. Coco's to Go Go, everybody. Remember the name and go find Courtney on Instagram. And for the love of God, watch the bear. Courtney, thank you so much.
Luca, thank you so, so much. And best of luck to you. Here anytime you need a podcast guest.
Thanks to Courtney Storer for joining us on the pod today. Now, welcoming back to the pod a man whose only culinary credentials include managing the queso station at Princeton, New Jersey's finest Qdoba. It's Father Saul.
An actual qualification of mine. I thought you were going to make something up, but you are looking at a proud 3-month member of the, I don't even know if it's still there, Market Fair Qdoba right outside of Princeton. Hit it up, everybody.
Do you guys call yourselves the Qdoba Club and spell club with a Q?
We don't. We call ourselves the I hate my life crew. As we're serving bratty high schoolers their lunch.
Well, look, we're here today to talk about a topic deeply related to Chicago. And if I'm not mistaken, your recent globetrotting has taken you to the Windy City. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. I was there not too long ago for a big Pakistani family wedding. It was a lot of fun, but I did get to spend some time inside the city. Big Chicago fan. I think I was texting you during the trip, at least in the month of June and the months of June and July. And I will in fact be returning to Chicago in August to see some friends. So I'm looking forward to spending more time in the Windy City while it is not windy.
Yeah, you'll have to do more eating there. Did you do any like special culinary excursions while you were there, or was it mostly wedding stuff?
It was mostly wedding stuff this time, but certainly when I go back, I have a hit list. Rick Bayless was initially on it. For reasons listeners will soon find out, he is now off.
I can't wait to talk about that, actually. Look, we are here today, as the listeners know who have been listening to the rest of this podcast, to discuss The Bear. Saul, have you finished season 2?
Finished season 2. Finished season 1 too, actually, just in the last month or so, because I hadn't wrapped that up, and then rolled right into season 2.
Let's cut right to the chase. What did you think?
I think season 2 of The Bear was the best television show of the year. And I'm someone who, unlike you, watched Succession's final season, which was, I think, the other big prestige show. I think it's my favorite season of television in a long, long time. Yeah, I fucking loved it.
Better than Succession?
Better than Succession. They're different kinds of shows and they have different setups. Actually, The Bear sort of reminds me of, I don't know if you watch Fleabag. But
Yeah.
Fleabag was the 2 seasons. I think The Bear thus far, and The Bear will go longer than Fleabag did. But Fleabag season 1 was like really good and new, but anxiety. It was like a feel bad show. It was like anxiety. It was funny and it had like ups and downs, but overall it was like bad vibes. And then season 2 was heartbreaking but good vibes. And season 2 of The Bear was heartbreaking but good vibes. And really, it had even more highs, I think, than Fleabag season 2. And that kind of storytelling appealed more to me than what Succession did. And I think it's ultimately, I don't know if it's fair to say more challenging, but I think it was more successful overall than what Succession did in its final season. Yeah.
That's extremely validating as someone who has never seen even one episode of Succession. I felt like saying The Bear is the best show on TV right now, but I didn't actually feel qualified to say that because I hadn't seen what I assumed was the biggest other contender, which was Succession. But I know that you, as someone who has been trying to get me to watch Succession for the better part of 4 years now, I feel extremely now validated in saying The Bear is the best show on TV. Who are the other contenders? What, White Lotus?
White Lotus. I actually heard someone say on a podcast that White Lotus would be, when White Lotus comes back, it'll be the best television show on TV. And I was like, no, I don't think White Lotus is close to Succession, let alone The Bear. And to be clear, I think The Bear and Succession are kind of like side by side, and it's kind of like a personality fit, which one you kind of gravitate to more. And I would ultimately gravitate towards The Bear. But I think aside from Succession, I can't think of a single other show. The Last of Us was big this year? Not even close, I'd say.
Yeah.
Especially as a piece of like original writing and original like content creation. But no, it was awesome, and I want to dive into like the details of what made it so validating for us. I mean, why do you think it's the best show on TV right now?
I think the combination of storytelling and setting and world building and character building is just something that hooked me in and drew me in a way that I haven't felt in a very long time. And I know that I am particularly susceptible to this particular show because of my interest in the culinary world, right? So I had to sort of like step back and ask myself, is this just really latching on to me as someone who's very into food? But no, I from the rumblings I've heard throughout social media and other podcasts and perusing the internet, I think that this show taps into universal themes of family, grief, mental health, losing yourself in sort of like your compartmentalization of other issues in a way that just like really hits nerves. And it does so in a way that doesn't feel ham-handed. It does it in a way that doesn't feel contrived or forced. There were a couple moments during the show where I was like, during the season where I was like, the one pitfall I could see happening to this show in future seasons is the Ted Lassification of it. Meaning like Ted Lasso first season, kind of a surprise hit, super feel good show, very emotional, tons of tear jerkers. And then it's sort of, that's all it became. It just became emotion porn. I think there's a fine balance for The Bear moving forward. in order for it to not just be emotion porn. I'm not that worried that they'll actually cross that line, but
Yeah.
if there's a pitfall, that's it.
Yeah, and I agree. I see where you're coming from with that. It's kind of like, do you ever watch Friday Night Lights? It's a similar thing too, where like football is almost a setting and a vehicle, but really the story is about what happens around the football team. This restaurant here is a setting and a vehicle, but really what matters is what happens around it. And in Friday Night Lights case, same thing is true of Ted Lasso, right? But I think the writers of The Bear are won't tip that balance, as you just said. And it's funny too. I was watching. I was remembering when we had a little conversation about looking forward to The Bear, and you said one thing you were looking for was more quiet moments. You were like, they can't do visual anxiety consistently all the time, and it's like they were listening, man. Like they nailed the balance between the anxiety of the restaurant, but also allowed the characters as a whole to breathe much more this season, for us to be rewarded for the challenges and trials and anxiety and stress we had in season 1, with growth in season 2, while also still having flaws and shortcomings that were totally heartbreaking as you were seeing them rise up too. I mean, you laid out a bunch of themes around family, trauma, and so on, but like ideas that resonated with me the most were ideas of purpose, finding your place, finding what's meaningful to you, right? Having a failure, or being in a dark place in life, and then finding a vehicle or a path by which you find your way out of it. That was really compelling to me. And you see some characters, what's so interesting is like some characters have found their way, I think, into daylight a little bit, right? While others who we might have thought had already, others that we are really core to the show, might be getting into a darker place over time, right? It's
Who are
really,
you
really
referring
fun
to
to watch.
specifically?
So I mean, yeah. I mean, we can spoil here, right? I mean, watching Richie, who was my least favorite character of the first season, find his like purpose and his meaning. The very first conversation he has on the show of the second season, episode of the second season, is, "What's my purpose? Where do I belong here?" Him finding that, dude. You know me. I nearly cried like 3 times that episode. That don't
Wow.
happen. That does not happen. It was so meaningful. Meanwhile, Carmi, who we see have an opportunity, we see him like able to sort of like, he's like kind of reaching for that, like that meaning beyond, or finding like the healthy balance, and just lets it slip away at the end. Like difficult to, really interesting to watch those trajectories, and that the scene in the final episode where Carmi's stuck in the dark cold fridge and
Yeah.
Ricky's outside yelling "I love you" while Carmi's like cursing him out.
Oh,
Like,
that got me.
awesome stuff.
Yeah.
Stuff.
Feels like I've probably done that drunk, just like cursing you out while you yell back "I love you" to me.
Oh, I was not yelling "I love you."
It's really true. The thing you hit on about the quiet moments stuck out to me too. I actually rewatched season 1 as well in preparation for this pod. And I believe the opening scene in season 1, unless I have extreme short-term memory problems, it's a very frenetic start. I think they're starting in the restaurant. It's super chaotic. It's dirty all over the place. It's grimy. It starts with that song from The Refused, the one that's like, you know? And season 2, on the flip side, starts with an extremely silent scene of Marcus with his mother, who's on, I believe, life support or in really bad straits in the hospital.
Yeah.
And it's a silent scene of
It's
him
silent, yeah.
being with his mom. And it's the contrast between those two just couldn't be starker. And it's not like there's no frenetic energy in season 2. There's tons of it, but they really get that balance right. And I think that's essential for, I think, landing the emotional punches they want to land. I actually, rewatching season 1, I think I only teared up once or twice. And I think it's because the pace and the tone of season 1 doesn't make that much room for that. And I think season 2 does, in a very, very like artful way. So I don't think I've ever seen you cry, so I'm a little bummed out that I missed it, but we'll just have to watch season 3 together.
Absolutely would be down for that. And I was like shocked about the look, because the thing is, I have to be surprised, right? And what I was expecting walking into season 2 was anxiety, but not like heartbreak, right?
Mhm.
And you're exactly right. In fact, the first what's cool too, and that what one of the kind of notable episodes of this season called Fishes, right, where we get a flashback into Carmi's family. I think we might be talking about that episode a little bit more in a second. Reminded me of is you were actually in fact incorrect about the first scene of season of season one. The first scene is a dream sequence with Carmi,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
And he's on the
It's the
Chicago
bear, right?
Bridge. Yep, and the bear opens up, and I think what that refers to, if he's returning to Chicago, right, the place that he had escaped, he had run from this family, and he returns back, and this bear of whatever, like the trauma and anxiety of being there was released again in this dream, right, as he returned into the city, crossed the bridge, and that I think was echoed and elaborated on in that Fishes episode.
Yeah, that's true. Man, I guess I do have short-term memory loss problems. That is the opening of season 1, you're right, and actually that brings up another point that I noticed between seasons 1 and 2 is that there was a lot more, like, magical realism and dream sequences
Mm,
in season 1 than in season 2,
yeah.
which I think I appreciated that. I don't think it was an unsuccessful, like, mechanism in season 1, but I don't think it was always necessary, and certainly in season 2, there was no I didn't see any CGI bears. I don't remember a single dream sequence.
What they do in those moments is they're trying to like illustrate a character's state of mind, right? And one thing
Yeah.
I did think was really interesting and I loved in season two was a couple moments where they did the same thing, right? One is with Carmi to illustrate his anxiety, right? And his distractedness with Claire, his new girlfriend, right? Chopping, like he's like stressed out. You see the scene, and he's like chopping in between like scenes of like flashes of Claire, flash of the restaurant, flash of being yelled at in New York, flashes of Sydney, right? And like showing us his mental state. I thought that was effective. But my favorite thing they did, I don't know if you remember, I think it was episode 3 when Sydney goes out to try different restaurants, right?
Mhm.
And they show kind of like the brainstorming of a dish coming together in her mind as she's going through the city. And it's like flashes of like different ideas with these like tortellini and like a green sauce that looks beautiful in her mind and it's coming together as she gets different influences. And she goes to make it at home and it doesn't look anything like what's in her head, right? But just watching like that way of visually telling the story of a brain, like of creativity, right? And creation happening in someone's mind, I thought was so cool and really effective.
Yeah, and they did that a little bit in season 1, like, when Sydney is dreaming up the risotto with the braised short ribs or
Oh,
the
right.
octa.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think she gets the idea for a cola braise in her sleep, and
Oh, I see.
you
Yeah. Yeah.
you get, like, meat, fizzy cola with ice in a glass, like, juxtaposed, quickly
Right.
together, and then she wakes up and writes it down in her journal, so they do that a little bit in season 1, but I'm really glad they elaborated that on season 2 because and that's actually something that, I imagine is kind of how a lot of dishes come together, is just, like, little inspirations from all over that your brain kind of just, like, takes and weaves together into something cohesive.
And it even reminded me of your conversation with Diego Argotti of the not of the concept that's permanently situated at Button Mash Poltergeist. When he was describing his challenges as an artist of when he was a drawing, right, what he had in his head he couldn't put on the paper, right, and it was a struggle. And I think I can't remember if he said this exactly, but basically with music he found he was able to do that more, and I presume with cooking he's able to do that, and that the skill set it takes to imagine something, to have a picture in your mind of an idea, and then have the technique and the talent to translate it onto a plate. It really reminded me of that like snippet of your conversation, and yeah, I think it's also notable that Carmen. I think a lot of chefs are like actually quite good at drawing or use
Yeah.
drawing and visuals to illustrate ideas, and we see Carmi's really cool drawings of different dish ideas at this season as well. Really enjoyed those little nuggets.
They're artists, bro. Well, look, let's get down to the nitty-gritty. I wanna hear what was your standout episode of season 2?
The standout episode was Forks, seasons episode 7 with Richie. Now, what's funny is you and several other friends I have who were watching The Bear were going crazy about episode 6 before I watched it, right? And I get why. And so I was really looking forward to episode 6. It totally paid off, but it was Forks that really got me. It was watching Richie have the light go off. It was watching him like find like meaning through service, and also like fully, I mean, look, I get it's like it's fantastical, right? In a week he goes to like becomes like a 3 Michelin star, like maitre d' or whatever, right? But doesn't matter. Like the the process of that character, who I really did hate in the first season, and I was so annoyed with. I'm someone who I really appreciate, and and I tell people this all the time. I'm like a LeBron guy over a Kobe guy, not in terms of like whatever historical meaning or blah 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 like skill set. It's about the way you engage with the team. And I don't like it when individuals fuck with a team and are not on board and shit and fuck things up and or like use their talent inappropriately. I like it when they enhance. And Richie went from like a Kobe player to a LeBron player, and it was beautiful. It was awesome. It was so cool to look behind the scenes of a 3 Michelin star restaurant and see how they work, right? And I'm guessing Courtney and others had really interesting insights to inform that episode. Yeah, that was the one that hit for me. That's Saul tearing up, choking up, watching that episode.
That's a very popular opinion, I'm sure, to have on an LA podcast, the LeBron over Kobe one. Actually, both LA players, but still I have a feeling there will
I
be
think
a
it's
contingent
clear.
of listeners that will be upset with that opinion. I agree, man. I was one of those
Oh,
people that
interesting.
texted you about episode 6, Fishes, and was like, holy, you gotta watch this. This is next level. Best episode of anything maybe I've ever seen, better than most movies I've ever seen. So the whole concept of Fishes, it's the only episode that happens in the past that doesn't happen in present day when they're opening the current iteration of the new restaurant, the Bear. And we get an incredible cast of guest stars. We've got John Mulaney, we've got Sarah Paulson, we've got Jamie Lee Curtis playing the mother, we've got my boy Bob Odenkirk coming in and putting in a
Great
solid cameo.
Odenkirk. Amazing Odenkirk. Yeah.
Amazing Odenkirk, one of my favorite Odenkirks. And then, of course, it's the most we get of who's the guy who plays Michael?
John Bernthal.
John Bernthal that everybody loves. And we get the most Bernthal that we get of the entire season in this episode too. It's an hour long. It's very much an epic episode, and it basically transpires all during one Christmas Eve during the Feast of the Seven Fishes. It's high art. That episode is high art, certainly in the way that sort of the tension builds, the drama builds, the little vignettes of the characters sharing stories that really also inform the present day story as well. It's extremely, extremely well done. And when you're watching it, you're like, this is the best episode of anything I've ever seen. And
Mm-hmm.
then you get Forks.
Yeah.
And you're like, holy shit, I didn't think that Fishes could be topped. Not only that, they top it with the next episode. I think all the reasons you stated for why it's the best episode are on point. It's just seeing this one dude's journey who I think has maybe the most transformative journey and the most transformative arc of
Thus
any
far. Yeah.
character, definitely this season.
Yeah.
And the moment where he is buzzing off of his like finding a purpose and driving in the car to Taylor Swift, his daughter's favorite artist, that's where I cried, man. I was
Yeah.
like, that was fucking poetry, man. Poetry.
It was beautiful. And also like I don't know how to like what the full idea is behind this, but you know, Richie is staging at this restaurant Avec, I think, in Chicago, which is an actual
Ever.
restaurant. Or ever, whatever. Um, and I think at the end of his stage, asks if he can work there, right? Like one of the ideas is like this idea of getting out and escaping. This came up in Fishes, right? With the Sarah
Yeah.
Paulson character telling Carmi like, "Hey, look, this place is not good for you." Like, it's with Michael being like, "Tell me like 3 things about Denmark." And Richie, even we learned in that episode of Fishes, is trying to leave the beef, right? He's trying to get out, and even in this moment of finding purpose, is still being like, "Hey, man, do you guys think you guys gonna hire?" Like trying to get, and that was like a heartbreaking moment for me because even though he'd found that purpose, his initial what he'd done is like in this place of extreme order, right? Fishes shows you the chaos of the Berzado family and of this world they're in and the trauma and how loud it is. And he goes to a quiet, ordered place and finds his purpose. And you just, I mean, and look, the beauty of the show and like what you're excited to see in the show is can Richie and Carmi and Sydney create that kind of place together, right? In the Bear restaurant that they're opening. But you can see Richie being like, this is what's good for me, like being in this kind of environment. And by the last thing I'll say really quick on Forks is one of the things that messed with me on Fishes was all the guest actors. It kind of like,
Mm,
it became like, yo, shit, that's Mulaney, instead of, oh, I'm
yeah.
watching The Bear, right? And the guest actors and the special guests are loud and like in your face and like the whole like the crux of the episode. And then in Forks, they just drop in a little Olivia Colman, who's like fucking amazing
Yeah.
actress, possibly the best actress alive. And speaking of Fleabag, like brings right over and just drop her in. Surprise, like quiet conversation with Richie. That's like so moving and interesting, right? And I thought
Mhm.
like that totally captured the balance between the two episodes a little bit as well.
If you had to give the award for one standout performance by a regular cast member,
Hmm.
who would you give it to?
By a regular cast member, I think I would actually give it to, well, one shout out to Maddie Matheson, who is a fucking chef and an
Yeah.
amazing actor. Hilarious, so good. And also hat tip to Carmi's actor, whose name is like literally
Jeremy
escaping me.
Allen White.
Jeremy Allen White, there it is. Who I think is somehow underrated in season 2. He won, I think, a Golden Globe or an Emmy for season 1, so like he's recognized. But this wasn't much of a Carmi season. It wasn't just a Carmi season the way the first one was. But I still think he was like an incredible performance. Sydney is my number one. I think the work that actor has to do is actually sort of the most diverse across the
Mhm.
season. She's friends with Marcus. She's growing into her own as a chef. She has her own episode that she needs to carry, right? She's building this level of, I mean, she's kind of heading down in some ways the dark, anxious path. She's still hungry for the anxiety and like the trauma and rush of a kitchen the way Carmi's like, you don't want to go for a star, man. It's a curse. But she wants, like, watching her balance all that stuff while being like funny and interesting and strong, like all that stuff is really cool to me. I mean, so many people can get this award, but I think hers is a performance that versus like the Richies and others doesn't get quite as much shine, and I want to give that hat tip.
Yeah, I agree. Io Adebiri is the actor,
Mm-hmm.
and definitely compared to season 1 too, I think the range that they had to show was definitely upped a notch. And
Yeah, her
it was a
relationship
really
with her
cool,
dad. Yeah,
yeah,
sorry, but like,
yeah,
yeah, those scenes as well. Like, yeah.
relationship with her dad, relationship to her mom, and who had
Mm-hmm.
passed away. And actually, I'm not sure we knew that in season 1. I think it was a bit of a season 2 revelation. A lot going on for that character. I thought that was a really, strong performance. I think this is really like a Sophie's choice in terms of picking
Mm-hmm.
one that stands above the other. I think where it gets a little more easier to have a take is when we're looking at standout performance by a guest cast member, and there are a lot of different candidates here. But I want to take a moment to appreciate someone who has been getting a little bit of, I want to say, shtick for her performance being a little over the top,
Yeah,
and that's Jamie Lee Curtis.
yeah.
I thought Jamie Lee Curtis was amazing. And some people didn't like the fact that she wasn't really reading Italian. Some people didn't thought that she was way too, over the top with how she was doing it. I thought there was no other way that particular character could have been played. Like, it's very clear that this person is the gravitational center of the family at this point in time, especially now that Michael's left a bit of a vacuum. And it's it needed to be an over the top performance, in my opinion. And I thought she did such an amazing job of really having you on a knife's edge during her episode of Fishes. Like, they sort of created this environment where it was dangerous to speak to her. Like, she could go off at
Mm-hmm.
any single moment. And that came through the screen, man. I was afraid of her. Like,
Yeah.
I loved her performance personally. Now, I'm not an acting coach or an actor, but I would like to give some flowers to Miss Curtis. I thought she did an excellent job.
I want to agree with you right here real quick, because I heard the same commentary, and after I'd seen the episode, and I didn't fully. I got where they were coming from, but it was not the feeling I had about it. A couple reasons. I thought Jamie Lee was an interesting casting because, for the most part, in her roles, she's like beloved, right? And she's like
Yeah.
the nice, cool mom. But the other time I see Jamie Lee Curtis the most, fucking New Girl, my favorite show of all time, where she plays Jess Zoe Deschanel's mom, and this is like super sweet whatever character, and this is like fucking bizarro version of Jamie Lee Curtis, who you want to like, and who I think just because of who she is and her affect, like you feel for, you have like an empathy for, and to see her in Fishes be like, I agree, like scary. You were
Mm-hmm.
scared of her, right? And then the payoff in the finale, right? And I think one of the reasons that Fishes being so big worked is because then you see this other version of her in the finale, this scared, ashamed version, who feels insecure in that they only cause hurt. You needed, I think, Fishes to be at that level of unhinged for then the finale moment, which shout out cry moment, like paid off.
Yeah, to make sense, you needed that to be as nuclear as possible, and it got there. Like,
Yeah.
I think she delivered, I think, one of the standout performances of the entire season, I'm going to say. Obviously, there were a lot of contenders between guests and regular cast, but I agree, man. That last scene where she's talking to, also, I got to say, Pete. Pete had some range. This is the dude
Yeah.
from the like fucking, what is it, Geico commercial where they're trying to like where there's the coach who tries to make sure that you're not like your parents, you know?
Oh, is that? Does he play that guy? Yeah, yeah.
He
No,
plays
he doesn't play that guy,
no,
does he?
he
He plays
plays
one of
one
the
of the
parents.
he's one of the guys, the young homeowners who doesn't want to turn out like their parents. He's like
Got
at a
it. Got it.
shopping mall wearing like lame clothes or in an elevator trying not to talk to people and stuff and being like, "Ooh, Paris," when he sees like a
Right.
Paris. Like he goes from that to delivering a performance like that in the finale where he's so torn, and he always is a character who does the right thing and then
Mm-hmm.
kind of like realizes like I got to keep this from Sugar in order to like maintain the peace here basically.
Yeah.
Like huge performance by Pete, shout out. But I agree. In order for that scene to land, you need Jamie Lee to do exactly what she did. And to your point, it's always really interesting when you see a character who you've only ever seen do one thing completely flip. It's like if Tom Hanks played a pedophile or something, right? It's
Right.
like like he like that is a role I want to see Tom Hanks in. Not that specifically, but that's what makes for the most interesting television at times, and that's why
Mhm.
that's where my award goes. Do you think there's another contender for you?
Well, the only person I want to give a hat tip to, and he's kind of in between, he's a recurring character, and I think he's fucking awesome. Oliver Platt as Uncle Jimmy Cicero
Yeah.
is fucking pitch. He, I've been doing this thing in my head where when people ask you who your favorite actor is, and I would always just like choose a name of like some guy in the last movie I saw, or I would say like Philip Seymour Hoffman, who I thought was cool, but honestly, I haven't seen a lot of his movies, but I just think he's a badass. I didn't really have I was like, what's even my criteria for favorite actor? And I realized it's someone who comes onto the screen, and no matter what, I'm like, oh, I'm in. Like no
Yeah.
matter like they're the characters they choose and the way they deliver their presence fucking hits every time. I think Oliver Platt is one of those dudes because
Yeah.
as Cicero, he is pitch perfect. But like the way he plays, like he balances like supportive family but not family, I think, like uncle with a little bit of menace because he's very
Mhm.
clearly tied in with like the mob or some shit, right? And he has just the right amount of menace and support, and like he's good guy, but you're like, but I think he's actually like a little bit of a bad, like he just fucking nails it every time. So hat tip to him as well. But we could go on and on about performances here, so I'll cut it off at that.
Okay, dud performance, which is a tough one, although there is one clear contender based on what I've seen in the media.
Ooh, who's that? Because I don't have one off top.
The one character, it's more so the writing of the character that's gotten a lot of critique. It's Molly Gordon's character, Claire.
I think that's bullshit. I think that's
You,
bullshit.
okay, defend Claire.
I mean, Claire is first of all cast and then played perfectly, I think, by that actress. I think the character is written ideally. I think the romance between her and Carmy is written really beautifully too. It's like fresh. It's not like you know exactly what's going to happen as soon as they meet, but the way they interact feels realer, and like you like as a viewer, you're like kind of like falling in love with the dynamic and relationship they have, right? And I think she like plays it just right. What I will say, here's what I will say, and this is not on the actor, this is not the performance. my one gripe, my one dud of the season, so to speak, their breakup, the way that came about, where Carmi's in the fridge doing a speech he thinks to Tina, and it turns out Claire's the one listening and then leaves, that to me was a little contrived. Like a
Yeah.
little too contrived, right? And a little bit too, and in a way, like the most annoying thing, like plot point in a TV show is like a miscommunication that like didn't have to be a miscommunication. Like if you're in real life, it could have gone. It would have like if it was real people, like they would have sorted out the right way. So that particular moment, we knew they were gonna. I think you wanted them to end up happy, but you knew they weren't, and that being the way it happened, I think was a little off. But not the performance, not the actress, and not the character as a whole.
The criticism that I've seen going around is that Claire felt to some folks like a bit of a regurgitation of some of those like manic pixie girls we've seen in scripts past, that don't have a ton of depth to them and just kind of say like speak in platitudes. And I've it's mostly been a criticism of the character as opposed to the way that uh, the actor portrayed the character. But I just think, as happens sometimes, some of that criticism falls, trickles down to the actor as well. Now,
Sure.
I think that Claire was so deliberately written to be the polar opposite of Carmi's world and
Yeah.
sort of all the negativity and all the shit and all the griminess that surrounds them every day, that I don't view that as a shortcoming on the writing. I think that was a very intentional choice, and I think it was really successful. And people are just responding to that and don't know how to feel about it because they're so used to feeling like, you know, grimy when they're watching this show. It stands out to such a degree. So, what I'm trying to say is, I think we're smarter than everybody else who watched.
As usual. Yeah, no. And what's also interesting is that we actually don't get a ton of Claire or Claire and Carmi together as a whole in this season. Not as much as you would think for like the lead actor of a show and their love interest. We get a little bit at the beginning. We get that the scene where they go to the party, and then it's pretty light from there. And just like the
Mhm.
fucking brutal voicemail or whatever afterwards. And the thing, I don't know if people are missing this or what, but like one of the things that connects them is that Claire's a little fucked up too. What does she do? She works in a fucking ER. She's in
Mhm.
hospitality, right? And what did she do? She looks at a broken arm and can't look away and wants to know how to
Mhm.
fix it. She wants to get in the muck, just like Carmi wants to get in the muck in the kitchen. She's getting in the muck literally with like bleeding
Blood,
bodies and like fucked up
feces.
situations. She's in
Yeah.
the ambulance and shit, right? Or she's the ER and shit, right? So they have a connection and they're looking for maybe I don't know. Again, we didn't get so deep on Claire. That's correct and fine, but we were also fleshed out on like every like six other characters in the show. But you could see that they'd found like an Eden within each other from the worlds that they like these like high stress, high anxiety worlds they created for themselves.
Yeah, I think that's right. Look, I want to save time for part 3 because I'm very excited to share with you my outline for what I think should happen in season 3, episode 1. But first, we have to touch on something that Chicago restaurateur and extremely famous restaurant guy Rick Bayless said when he was asked about the bear. And this comment carried some weight, not just because Rick has a huge name in the industry, but also because he's kind of really closely associated with Chicago too. And his argument was basically that the show has set the industry back 20 years because it depicts the kitchen in such a way that makes the career look, and these are not his words, I'm paraphrasing, but unstable, chaotic, dangerous, etc., and that it basically won't attract people to the profession. What are your thoughts on that?
I think he's wrong. I think he's like really wrong. I think Rick Mann's maybe not watched season 2 quite yet. Uh, and by the way, look, like what one of the things season 1 was renowned for was how accurately it portrayed kitchens.
Yeah.
So look, man, like sure we could also, and by the way, it also portrays really healthy and balanced and like efficient kitchens. The whole scene, oh my god, I almost forgot about his guest actor, fucking Will Poulter as Luca,
Mhm.
right? Like
Great
what?
name. Great
Great
name.
name, great episode. the supportive Marcus, the person who like he's such a fascinating character, right? And like so no, it doesn't. It hasn't set the fucking industry back 20 years. It hasn't done anything. If anything, it's still glorifying restaurants. The Bear loves restaurants. The Bear is making an argument that restaurants and the service and detail and commitment that restaurants, when done healthily, um, uh, succeed, is one way for people to heal themselves. Like it like loves the idea of the highest level dining and service. So no, he's wrong. Rick Bayless is a little bit corny. I will say I make some of his tomatillo arbol salsa fucking really good, even though he's the white Mexican chef. And look, he to be fair to him, he wasn't like, look, it's not bad TV. He's saying from an industry perspective, portrayals that look dirty and chaotic and abusive are bad for the industry. Look, chefs have become celebrities in the last like 20 years, right? People like chefs like a rock star, like seen profession. People I think are really compelled by kitchens. We just seen season 20 of Top Chef. I think there's no no concern at all for portraying some realistic downsides or realistic dark sides of the profession as well, especially in a show that ultimately celebrates the industry.
Yeah, he's trying to. It seems like his quest is to make the culinary profession like the legal profession or something like really
Yeah.
buttoned up. And that's just, you got to be real, man. There's real constraints. And I think that the show does a really good job of calling out the shitty parts of the industry and glorifying when things are done right.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to limit the conversation to that because we got to move on to part 3. But I think there's one word that sums up Rick Bayless, and that is jagoff.
Jagoff. Yeah, let's go with that.
All right, buddy. We'll take a break. We'll be back in part 3. And we're back in part 3. As promised, we're going to do something that I think constitutes us crossing the picket lines of the writer's strike. We are going to give our specs, our outlines for what we think should happen in season 3, episode 1 of The Bear. Saul, have you given this any thought?
I've given it a little bit of thought. First of all, I do give a fuck about crossing the picket line, support writers. And I do not think this qualifies as such. I've given it a little bit of thought. I'll be honest, I have no idea what a spec is, but what I'm going to do, I take it it's some kind of outline for an episode.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. To be clear, a spec is like writer talk for writing an episode of a show that already exists. So like it's a writing exercise basically, where you take a show you like and you write an episode, and it's basically to show that you can write in the style of the show. So that's all it is. It's jargon.
Gotcha. Dude, I could probably write a spec script for New Girl like tomorrow and have it get put on air. I know that voice backwards and forwards. Anyway, yeah. So what I'll say is this. I want to go off top here a little bit. I intentionally didn't think too much about it because I wanted to like kind of let the creative juices flow, so to speak. And what I'm going to say is what I'm going to do is tell you where I think the show should kick off in season 3 and what I would want to see in that first episode. 1, I would like them to address the Claire Carmi breakup, but not until the end of the episode. I don't want to start off on that. 2, I want the restaurant and maybe the opening scene of the restaurant. The opening scene of season 2 should tell us a little bit immediately about where the Bear stands in the restaurant. And what I believe they should do and what they will do is the Bear is successful. I think they will have paid off Jimmy. I don't think that should be necessarily an ongoing or too much more of an ongoing like plot device that they need to pay off Jimmy Cicero. But maybe it is, and it's more. But I think it'll be heads just above water. It'll be we're like right on the edge. We're surviving, but barely, right? And that's the classic anxiety of the Bear. And the way they need, I think the conceit of season 3 is the way they can establish themselves. They determine what they need to achieve is a star, right?
Which they've already talked about in season 2.
They've teased season 2, which is why I believe it'll come back around, and they'll say, look, we are barely surviving. We are on track to play. We are on track to pay Uncle Jimmy, but like if we're on a knife's edge. And what we need is to achieve this level of notoriety and pursue X level of excellence before it happens. And I think that as the driving device of season 3 will begin to expose more of the cracks with Sydney, with Carmi. We'll be into kind of like, they are the ones who are going to have to figure out a way to balance that commitment to excellence with something healthy. I think that Carmi and Claire deserve a better. So I think Claire remains the end game for Carmi by the end of the show, and I want to see how like the next step of that. Um, yeah, I think like where how Carmi recovers from his night in the refrigerator, um, and how he begins to repair himself, or maybe for one more season, continue to descend, right? Will be interesting to watch, and I think that's kind of where season three should set us up. Yeah.
Surprised you didn't go with a Kari Me Too scandal.
I don't think there would be one of those. I
Yeah.
don't think that tracks.
So that was cute. I think we would call that more like a season 3 like Bible, right? Like you kind of gave
Sure,
very
yeah. It
the
was less of an
direction.
episode and more an arc, right? That's
Yeah.
right. Oh, and
Yeah.
also Richie's got to get with that, whatever the expediter at ever that he was
Oh,
like kind of making eyes at. Yeah, I want to see
yeah.
that
Oh,
happen
that's a
too.
good. Yes. Yes, that would be a good romantic interest for him. Okay, look, you went the more general route. I'm going to go the hyper specific route, okay?
Go for
I haven't given this a lot of thought at all, okay? I'm just going to go off the dome,
You've been
okay?
working on this for a straight month. I can already tell.
I don't know what you're talking about. Okay, we open on a frantic scene at the ER. Gunshot victim being wheeled in. Ambulance person briefs Claire and team on what's going on. It's not good. What we witness is basically an energetic recreation of what life was like in the kitchen for Carmi. So it's the similar sort of like but
Interesting.
in the ER, okay, for Claire. They lose the patient. It's not good. It's a bad start, right? Claire is decompressing in the bathroom, and we see that she pops a pill. It's Xanax or something stronger, and the implication here is perfect Claire isn't so perfect, okay, you critics? We're giving her a lot of demons in this season. She goes home. It's the end of her shift. It's super early in the morning before the sun has even come up. See, I've given this no thought. We discover she lives with her mom, who's raised her as a single mother because her dad died when she was young. Claire's mom is asleep in front of the TV, and she has the morning shows on. And Carmi and Marcus are on with Ryan and Kelly, demonstrating how to make a savory cannoli. So basically, you're
Whoa.
painting that like the bear has become this massive success, right? She stands and watches the TV with a blank stare for longer than she should, and she changes the channel and throws a blanket over her mom. We got to show her doing something really like good, right? People gotta be rooting for her. Claire awakes. The sun is up. We see her routine. It's low energy and she seems depressed. We see her pop another pill. In the kitchen, she finds her mom staring blankly out the window. We discover her mom has early onset dementia and Claire is her caretaker. Claire makes her a cup of tea. Claire then collapses on her bed and scrolls through her phone. Annoying food bloggers like myself post TikToks about the bear. She lingers but quickly moves past them. It's clear that she can't escape this fucking place, right? An incoming call from Kelly, her best friend who we met in season 2. Hey, bitch. This is the most alive we've seen Claire all episode. They catch up. Kelly asks Claire about the guy she's now been seeing. Okay, so we get a hint. Claire's already moved on. It gives us a little bit of time, right? Or we think she's moved on. Next scene, moody Chicago bar that the culinary producer Courtney Storer has handpicked for vibes and status within the Windy City culinary canon. Claire sips a beer across from her new beau, played by none other than Rami Youssef, who, by the way, directed the
Directed.
Copenhagen
Yep.
episode. So
Yep.
we're going to give him a little bit of a cameo in this season. He's the opposite of Carmi, not in every way. He's also artsy and disheveledly handsome, but he's warmer. He has a clear grasp of self. He's more conventionally charming and sort of outgoing than Carmi, and clearly cares for Claire. He mentions that his friend's birthday is coming up, and she's been dying to go to dun 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 the Bear. Doesn't Claire know somebody there? Claire looks taken aback, but she says she'll look into it. An ER montage comprised of hospital beds moving quickly follows. We hear heart monitors beeping and flatlining, frantic operating room scenes, Claire popping pills. Once the montage is over, we see her in the locker room. A text. It's Rami. Any word on the bear? She locks her phone and pops another pill. We're at the train station. Claire's waiting for the train. She has her phone out and stares at the bear's number on the screen. The train comes. She gets on. She decides not to call. Back home, Claire enters the kitchen to find her mom at the table looking through old photo albums. The doctor says it could delay the dementia. They flick through photos, and her mom drops a touching and hyper-specific anecdote about her dad that's deeply related to precisely the situation Claire finds herself in now. Claire knows what she must do. On her porch, early morning and cold enough that we can see her breath, Claire calls the bear. Unexpectedly, we hear and recognize Carmi's voice pick up. Hello? Claire, taken aback, can't get a word out. The silence seems to last forever. Then Carmi goes, Claire? The sound of her own name is more than
What?
she can bear, and she hangs up the phone, bursting into tears. What the fuck is wrong with me? She asks herself. Back at the ER, Claire is pouring herself a mug of coffee when a loud, obnoxious, and familiar voice sounds out from the waiting room. She peeks her head in. It's Fack. She sees him. He's dislocated his shoulder fixing some obscure piece of kitchen equipment that broke down. After she's popped his shoulder back in, they make small talk. He says she should come by and visit the restaurant sometimes. She thinks about asking Fack to help with a reservation for Rami and his friend group, but she decides not to. A sex scene with Rami. Ooh. During their post during their post-coital pillow talk, Claire mentions she wasn't able to get a res at the bear. Oh well. Rami says, "Oh, I forgot to tell you. One of the other homies in the group was able to make it happen. We're going on Friday night." Claire reacts poorly to this news. There's some tension between them. She self-medicates after he leaves. Cut to dinner at the bear. We're ramping towards the finale here. Cut to dinner at the bear. This is the first time we see the restaurant, and we see it entirely from Claire, aka the diner's perspective. It's buzzing and operating on all cylinders. People wait at the bar to sit down. Diners are excited and happy. The dishes are flying out of the kitchen. The only time we see the kitchen is when the door swings open and we catch glimpses of Sydney and Tina. Claire is visibly nervous at dinner with her friends. She catches a glimpse of Fack across the dining room and she covers her face with a menu. She's not present and is even being borderline rude to Rami's friends. Rami picks up on her weird behavior and he's asking her why she's being so weird. She says she's fine, but it's clear she's not. In slow motion, we see Carmi exit the kitchen. Claire freezes. He doesn't see her and heads back to the kitchen. But the moment is too much for Claire to handle, who must excuse herself to go to the bathroom. We see her take more pills as she looks into the mirror. The dinner continues. Amazing food hits the table. This is the first time we see the food in full effect. Rami's friends are raving about the food. Everyone is having a great time. Everyone except Claire. We see her drink. She's getting progressively drunker, and mixed with the pills, it looks like she's losing her motor functions. In a climactic point of the dinner, the cannoli hit the table. One of the friends exclaims that Carmi is a genius. Claire laughs, spitting out wine onto one of Rami's friends. She proceeds to have a drunken, angry rant about how how our obsession as a society to glorify genius, we overlook basic human decency. It's
Wow.
vitriolic, politically incorrect, extremely uncomfortable. She gets loud. She causes a scene. The entire dining room quiets down, and she's now blown her own cover as folks like Fack and Richie notice her presence. Richie tries to stop her. He calls her by name. This takes Rami aback, who doesn't know just how much her reputation precedes her at the bear. Claire volunteers to leave, but not before pouring her wine glass all over the table. In the alleyway, Claire pops another pill. She almost faints onto the wall. We hear someone call her name, but now she's fainted. A dream sequence. Claire is in the ER, but instead of all of her fellow doctors, she's surrounded by the Bears crew. They're trying to save a patient, but doing it the way a restaurant crew would. Everyone's calling each other chef. They keep saying they're in the weeds. They're losing the patient. We look down, and the patient being operated on is Claire's mom. She wakes up in a hospital bed. Someone is holding her hand. It's Carmi. End.
Wow.
I didn't give this any thought, obviously.
That was an impressive delivery. I tried as best as I could not to laugh throughout so that our listeners could enjoy the full experience.
We'll put background music to it.
That's a great idea. From the background music from episode 1 of The Bear.
Yeah.
I love that. That was, let me just say this. If a spec is a representation of you capturing the voice and perspective of the show, I'm not sure you got there, or am I? I will say my favorite part. I think having an experience at the Bear from the perspective of a diner is a great idea. I like that a lot, right? Because we're always kind of going back and forth with the kitchen in front of house, or I mean, to date is what we have. No, that's always what we've had, right? Whenever they're stressed out and stuff like that. So seeing it from a diner's perspective and seeing them work would be really interesting, and seeing more of the food, because I actually don't think we end up seeing a ton of food in the Bear, which is kind of interesting. So I like
Yeah.
that idea a lot. What I will say, I have a bunch of questions,
Yeah, go
both
for it.
both about the idea and kind of like personally and mentally about your well-being. Um, uh, but I enjoyed that. I enjoyed that. What I will say is, I think the Claire episode as a whole. This is my one piece, my last thought on this. As a whole, I think a Claire-centric episode is a good idea for the show. I think it would be kind of late season 3.
Yeah,
I think we first need to
that's
ground ourselves in our main characters. And I would bet you it would be a great bet, because season 1 we center on the first scene being Carvey. Season 2 it's Marcus. Interestingly, season 3, my bet, Sydney.
Yeah, although Marcus was a really left field choice in
So
terms of like,
they could go left field. I mean, look, it could just as easily be Richie.
yeah,
It
yeah,
could be someone totally random. It
could
could be
be like
fucking Pete, right?
could be
Or
Sugar,
Nat.
yeah, Pete or Sugar delivering the
Yeah.
baby or something, like
Yeah.
that.
Oh, I forgot about the baby too. Yeah.
Yeah. No,
Uh,
look, I was really torn about this because after I spent way too much time not writing this outline, I realized this would never be the first episode of season 3. Like this would probably come later on, if they wanted to do a Claire episode or reintroduce her in some way, shape, or form. I don't think this works as season 3, episode 1, but I had a ton of fun exploring the life of just one of the characters, right? That we don't know too much about. And I think that's one of the things that this
it's a
show does
great.
really well.
Yeah, they do that really well, and I do think they will do it to Claire. To your credit, I do think at some point we will get a deeper look into her life. It was a great little fan fiction, bro. I'm happy for you.
Yeah, and not even as erotic as most fan fictions I write. So,
I feel like you cut it off right before the weird sex scene.
oh yeah,
It was coming. Yeah.
the deleted scenes. The deleted scenes are definitely NSFW. Father Saul, any final thoughts you want to leave the listeners with?
No, I mean, look, I think now that the Bear has hit this level, because I think season 1 was good, but there's a reason I didn't finish it. By the way, I watched the first 6 episodes of season 1, and I was like, I think I've had enough. And look, I know a lot of people have had a different experience, but it wasn't quite at the level. And I think it's hit the level where when Bear season 3 comes out, dude, we should fucking like visit one another and binge that shit. And really respond almost in real time. Pod reactions after each episode and stitch them all together or some shit. I think it's hit that level of notoriety as a piece of media.
I think you're right, and I can be the shoulder that you can cry on during those episodes.
I'll need it, bro. I'll need it.
Yeah. Father Saul, thanks as always. You did a great job today. Just want you to know.
Appreciate it, buddy. See you later, Jagoff.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the LA Food Podcast. Thanks to our guests, Courtney Storer and, of course, Father Saul. If you like what you heard, please go to wherever you listen to podcasts, leave us a rating, a review, subscribe if you should be so inclined. And if you're looking for me, dear listener, you can find me on TikTok, Instagram, and now even Threads at the LA Countdown. That's TheLaCountdown. You can also find us on Instagram at LA Food Pod. That's LAFOODPOD.